Donald Trump's new Energy Secretary, and Peter mentioned this earlier in the program, a bloke named Chris Wright, has backed the idea of Australia pursuing nuclear power. Now, this was during a remote address to the ARC conference in London where Peter is. Joining me now to discuss this, Environment Editor at the Australian, Graham Lloyd. Well, what's Anthony Albanese and Chris Bowen going to do now?
Well, good evening, Steve. It was a very interesting observation by the new US Energy Minister. And it's well known that Donald Trump favours a return to oil and gas and fossil fuels for the bedrock of the economy there. But what the latest comments say is, look, societies are being sold a false promise. That they're being told that they will absorb this pain and it will somehow lead to a change in the weather or a better future for the planet. And he's saying that the evidence on that transition is that it's falsified. The cost is higher than expected and the cure is possibly worse than the disease. This is a debate that is probably going to grow in currency as the costs continue to increase. It was interesting to see Bjorn Lomborg, his comments earlier in the program that, look, this is an issue for later in the century. It's not something that can be ignored, but the solution is to invest in technologies that will get you there in a credible fashion. The US is saying this is a high-cost transition that's going nowhere, and it's leading to distortions in economies, and people probably won't put up with it forever.
It punches a hell of a hole in the plans of Chris Bowen and Anthony Albanese and the entire, government and the Greens Party in Australia as we go towards this election. I mean, this new Secretary of Energy there described the net zero aims of 2050 as, quote, a sinister goal. I mean, really, he's not holding back. And we've lost now a major partner in what everybody thought was this push for, new energy to take over the whole of the energy system in Australia. I mean, how are they going to dig themselves out from this hole?
Yeah, it's certainly very interesting that there's been a persuasive argument right from the start that Australia is a relatively small player in a global sense, and we should calibrate anything we do to what is happening in other parts of the world. With the US out, with China still pushing ahead with fossil fuels, Europe starting to shudder, we need to really consider what contribution Australia can afford to make economically, given what's being done in other parts of the world. And that is an equation that is changing, and it's changed quite substantially, even in the past 3 years.
And we today have another collapse in the green hydrogen dream with Whyalla, the steel plant, being put into administration, Graham.
Yes, look, there are people who have said for a long time that the Gupta Empire has been one big boondoggle, where he's stitching together subpar assets and rebadging them as green utopias and saying this is going to manufacture the future. The Australian government isn't the only one that's been sucked in by this and put a whole load of money towards it. Now, the government's left holding the baby. It's a dream with the hydrogen that seems to be very challenged in a scientific sense. And so we're trying to preserve steelmaking.
I reckon, Graham, it's going to turn into a green nightmare. That's what it's going to turn into. Thank you, Graham. Always great to catch up with you.